Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the 3 Topics Gamer, here to give you another one of my weekly Q&A to help people's questions or answer a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. We just certainly got a much bigger episode this time around. We got a lot more questions, so heck, that's a plus. But like always, if you do happen to enjoy this episode by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of all my future episodes and videos I'll be uploading for the rest of the year. So, starting off with the first question. All these questions are regulars. There's no new people as far as I can tell, so yeah, it's nice that we're being consistent. First question, coming from Z Visions with a Z, and you wanted to know, how did I become a Pats fan? Well, that's a funny story. Well, back in 2005, I didn't have a team, but I kind of felt like, okay, Brian, we need to, football, you're kind of seriously getting into football, you're in high school, it'd be nice to kind of finally pick a team. But I didn't know how to pick one. So all I did was pretty much, it goes back to the Super Bowl. And, Super Bowl for a lot of people is something that they watch yearly. Even if they're not a football fan, they go still watch it. And up to that point, that had kind of been the tradition in my family too. So I pretty much decided that for that particular Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 39, I just decided, heck, whoever wins this Super Bowl, that's the team we go with. Now, as it so happens, that was actually the Super Bowl that had the Patriots go up against the Eagles for the first time. Now, up to this point, I didn't know anything about the Patriots. I didn't know about Tom Brady. I didn't know about Bill Belichick. I didn't know about anything. But pretty much whoever had won that game was going to be the team that I would then follow from that point on. So heck, if the Eagles had won that, I'd be an Eagles fan. But since the Patriots won, that's who I went with. It didn't take me till maybe another year or two for me to realize, oh snap, they had actually started a dynasty, which was new to me. I didn't know about, the Super Bowls that they'd gone against the Panthers and then the Rams before that. So I don't really consider myself too much of a bandwagon fan. And you have to remember that up to that point, I would have to go through 2 painful losses against the Giants in 2007 and then in 2000, I believe, 10 or 11. So it really wouldn't be till Super Bowl 49 I'll actually get to celebrate a Patriot championship. But heck, even though Tom Brady is gone and the Patriots have severely fallen, I'm not going anywhere. I see where things are going with Mac Jones. I think, seeing where I thought they would be, I seriously thought their season was going to go 7-10. So the fact that they went 10-7 and made it to the playoffs and then got knocked out by the very impressive Bills, I'm happy with where my team is now, and I definitely think that it can improve. Do I think we're going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon? Probably not. Kansas City, Bills, hell, even the Bengals, I think there are just too many obstacles, so I don't think Bill Belichick is going to be there for too long. But I definitely think this team can improve and be at least a respectable franchise moving forward. So that's kind of how I became a Patriots fan. Now, years after that, after the Patriots beat the Eagles, I decided, heck, I need to be maybe we should tie it to a basketball franchise, but we didn't know what. But then I kind of thought, something I don't like? I don't like Los Angeles. And who plays for Los Angeles? The Lakers. And you know who the Lakers' main nemesis is? Well, it just so happened to be the Celtics. Now here's the cool thing about the Celtics. Their primary color is green, and that's my favorite color. And heck, Celtics. That leprechaun. And my last name happens to be Irish? Huh. Interesting. And it's also kind of Boston focused. So I was like, I think I could be a Celtics fan. And that's how that came. And then a couple years after that, you know who also plays in Los Angeles? The Dodgers. I don't like them either. And who's their primary nemesis? Oh, that's right. The Red Sox. So that's how that happened. So, yeah, as you can see, I guess I'm predisposed to be a fan of Boston. So, yeah, if I could live in any other city other than Vegas, would I want to live in Boston? Hell yes. So, yeah, sorry if this question this answer extended a little bit, but yeah, that's just the natural direction of how I became a Patriots fan and how that kind of tumbled into being a Celtics fan and a Red Sox fan. So, there's that. Next question comes from, I swear to God, I'm never going to get used to this, comes from simply Tim. I swear, there's just something wrong with that. It just looks too simple. But anyway, Tim wanted to know what would I consider to be the better protagonist, Chris Redfield or Leon S. Kennedy? I don't really think you can pick one over the other simply because they're both two very different characters. They're two different combatants, and they've achieved two different things. I mean, Chris Redfield did take out Wesker. That is kind of a big deal. But then Leon did single-handedly take out an entire cult of parasitic zombies, and that's something that Chris hasn't done. But then you could say Chris, kind of fought off like a much more efficient version of that in Resident Evil 5, and he's been doing this a little bit longer. So I really can't pick. I just think that they're very, very different. They both have strengths and disadvantages. So yeah, if I had to pick, I wouldn't pick either one of them. I think they're both equally great protagonists as the Resident Evil franchise. Why we haven't seen Leon in some time in the games is another question in itself. But yeah, I can't pick one. Next question comes from bradyburke. He wanted to know, what are you hoping to see in the sequel of Jedi Fallen Order? Hopefully to see Cal do more powers, maybe interact with some iconic characters, maybe play as Marith for a little bit. I mean, she's a Night Sister, so I think it'd be cool if we got to play with her a little bit. I mean, maybe down the road, maybe she gets a lightsaber. I mean, just because you're not a Jedi doesn't mean you can't use a lightsaber. There are a lot of people who, don't use the Force that use lightsabers. That I think that'd be pretty cool. Maybe visit some other planets. And yeah, I mean, just hopefully it's a consistently great game. I mean, I thought Jedi Fallen Order was probably one of the best Star Wars story games I've ever played. So heck, keep that ball going. Next question comes from the Batman from Gotham. He wants to know, what kind of villain in a story do I like more? Probably the ones that are just flat out crazy. I mean, don't need some deep motivation of trying to make a point or something horribly wrong happened to them. They are just simply an evil person just for the sake of being an evil person. There's no need to go into their backstory. It's just, heck, they want to do bad things, and that just intended to go straight forward. I mean, so many villains, have backstories of, they got screwed over, or something bad happened to them, or they were wrong, or they want to make a point, and they felt like they had to cause bad things in order to get their point. But very few are just purely evil. Just simply that, purely evil. And we don't see too many of those in comic books or movies today. Next question comes from phantomsidious. You want to know, considering this year is the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones, do you think the movie is undeserving of its bad reputation it has, or has it become more acceptable with age? I don't know if I'd say it's more acceptable with age, because even I recognize that it's, without question, my least favorite of the prequel films, and there's a lot of problems, especially with a lot of things with Anakin. Any scene that has Obi-Wan Kenobi works just fine. I will defend that till the cows come home. But I think things with Anakin weren't that great. He does have a number of key scenes, and there's some elements outside of that I also don't think worked and could have been improved about. But do I think it's like a terrible film? I mean, it's not a great film. I mean, I can still watch it and it respects the good in it, but I'm not blind for the fact that it's, without question, out of the prequels, the most seriously, heavily flawed film between those three films. So I'm not going to disagree with its problems. It's definitely deserving of its criticism, but I think with time, that's kind of eased at a lot of people, especially when you compare it to the sequels, which are far worse. So I think it's just a case of, you see what a story working within a storyline that is already set looks like compared to a story in the sequels, which they're just making this up as they're going, and they had no real plan. Which is, even they've admitted that they had no plan when they came to the sequel trilogy. So I think that's an advantage that the prequels have that the sequels don't have. So, yeah. Next question comes from blackshadowknight, and you want to know, I recall you once saying something about getting a tattoo in the future, which I still am getting, and I'm probably going to try to get next month. And this got you wondering, where do I draw the line in terms of tattoos? Meaning, where in the body do I consider it off limits to them? I don't think there's any limits. If it's your body and you want to put it someplace, yeah, You can put a tattoo anywhere you want. Now, there's specific spots that I've seen that I was like, I would never do that. Like, I've seen people tattoo their faces. I wouldn't do that. The heck, I understand that there's a cultural aspect to that, and that's why some people do it. I think the weirdest place I've seen is someone tattoo their eyes, which I was like, why would you do that? That had to be painful as hell. But yeah, I mean, if it's your body and you want to pay for it, I don't think there's any limits to where you can tattoo. Now, for me personally, there's only literally 5 spots on my body that will ever get a tattoo, and they're all typically in the kind of the same area. So I don't plan to go crazy with tattoos. I mean, the most I would ever get is 5, probably 4, but they're like not even big tattoos. They're kind of like the simple symbolizing tattoos. So yeah. Next question comes from Aaron Woodtaker, and you want to know which ending from Infamous 2 do I like more and why? Good ending or evil ending? Definitely the good ending. My only problem with the good ending is I wish that that happened at the end of the third game with Cole McGrath instead of just the second one. I thought the idea of him sacrificing himself in order to save the city, and then instead of being known as the Beast of Newport City, or the Beast being known as the monster in the first game, he gets known as a hero, which I think that's what he always wanted. So I really, they make him the, if I remember correctly, the patron saint of New Moray, uh, which I appreciated. So yeah, I definitely would go with the good ending. And heck, the good ending is the one that leads until the second Sun game. So yeah, I just wish we'd had like one more game with Cole McGrath, and he had his own trilogy before we went on to Delson. That's my only criticism. And the last question of the episode comes from Red Guilty, 7 Red Guilty. I can never pronounce the first part. But you want to know, what was the most expensive video game collector's edition I ever bought? I actually had to look this up before filming this, just to double check. I had an idea of which one it was, but without question, the most expensive collector's edition I ever bought was the Final Fantasy 15 Ultimate Collector's Edition. Not just the regular one, the Ultimate one, which I still have all the parts. This thing is actually still pretty heavy. This thing retailed at about $270. And I think the closest one to that, I believe, is my Death Stranding Collector's Edition, and that was $200. But this one was $270, had a lot of stuff in it. You could only buy, like when they announced this, I believe at like some sort of Square Enix conference before the game came out. You could only order this from their website, and there was a limited amount of these. Like, and there's like a small limited amount. So like these things were going out so quickly that like the website was like sold out of these like within like 30 minutes. So like I was literally one of those people who, like, the second the conference over, you rushed over to the computer. You had to pre-order it like immediately. Now, luckily for Square, they allowed you to pre-order it, but they didn't charge you. That's one thing I really like about a lot of these places. Like, I like to pre-order things, but I don't want to pay the full amount until it's actually sent. So that's something I really do appreciate from Square. And one thing with this collector's edition that they handled just fine. But yeah, about 270 is the highest I've spent for any collector's edition. Now, do I think it was worth it? Kinda. I mean, I think if it had been like $200 or maybe $220, I think that would have been a much more comfortable price. But I think because I was so hyped up before Final Fantasy 15 to get the franchise back in order, I was almost willing to pay any price. I think if it had been $300, I probably would have let this one go. I think because the most expensive item in that collector's edition is the Noctis figure, which is currently standing in the case hanging right next to Batman. And I actually looked up how much those figures cost. And those figures are expensive. And like we're talking like 120, sometimes 150, which shocked the heck out of me. And the fact that I believe that particular figure, I don't think you could buy separately. I may be wrong. I think you could get it now, but I think within about a year of its release, I don't think you could have bought that anywhere else. So I think that's what made the figure so expensive. It's a really cool figure. It's really awesome. But yeah, the Final Fantasy 15 Ultimate Collector's Edition is the most expensive amount of money that I've spent on any Collector's Edition. And And that'll do it for this particular episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed this extended episode. Make sure you keep the questions coming. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get to me roughly before next Wednesday, before noon, before I start filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you all next time.